I stood outside my childhood home on Christmas Eve, tears streaming down my face as my father closed the door in my face. Through the frosted window, I watched my stepmother Vanessa laugh with her family around the tree where my mother's ornaments used to hang. I had no idea then that within 6 months, my father would be dead. I'd be erased from his will and banned from his funeral. But when I discovered what Vanessa had really done to him and that I wasn't her first victim, I crashed his memorial service with evidence that would destroy her perfect widow act and expose her for the monster she truly was. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Nicole, and 3 years ago, I thought I knew what loss felt like. That's when I lost my mother to cancer, a brutal 18-month battle that hollowed out our family but somehow made the bond between my father and me even stronger. We grieved together. We healed together. Every Sunday, I'd drive to the house where I grew up, and we'd have dinner in the kitchen where Mom used to cook. We'd talk about her, laugh about her terrible sense of direction, cry over the hole she left behind. Dad was 62 then, and I was 32, and I genuinely believed nothing could break what we had. I was so incredibly wrong. Dad met Vanessa at his country club about a year after Mom died. When he first told me he was seeing someone, I was genuinely happy for him. I didn't want him to be alone forever, drowning in memories and grief. I wanted him to live again. Vanessa was 38, beautiful in that carefully maintained way, honey blonde hair, perfect teeth, expensive workout clothes. When I first met her at one of our Sunday dinners, she seemed almost too good to be true. She complimented the house, asked thoughtful questions about my mother, told me how lucky my father was to have such a devoted daughter. "I hope we can be friends," she said, squeezing my hand across the table. "Family is everything to me." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. They got engaged after 6 months. Fast, sure, but I told myself they were older, they knew what they wanted. Who was I to judge? I was even a witness at their small wedding, standing there in my navy dress, thinking I was gaining a stepmother, not losing a father. The changes started small. Vanessa moved in immediately and began what she called refreshing the house. I came over for our usual Sunday dinner 2 weeks after the wedding and stopped dead in the entryway. All the photos of my mother, the ones that had lined the hallway for 35 years, were gone. Just blank walls with lighter squares where the frames had been. "Where are Mom's pictures?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Dad looked uncomfortable. "Vanessa feels it's important we start fresh. Having reminders of my past marriage everywhere makes her uncomfortable." "Your past marriage?" The words felt like glass in my throat. "Dad, that was my mother." "Nicole, please don't make this difficult," he said, and something in his tone was different. Harder. "This is Vanessa's home now too. We need to respect her feelings." I swallowed the hurt and told myself I was being unreasonable. It was his house, his new marriage. I needed to be supportive, not possessive. But over the next few months, more pieces of my mother disappeared. Her piano, the one she taught me to play on, was donated without anyone asking if I wanted it. Her rose garden was torn up and replaced with Vanessa's meditation garden filled with tall purple flowers I didn't recognize. My childhood bedroom was converted into Vanessa's home office, my things packed into boxes in the garage. Each time I tried to express hurt, I was met with the same message: I was being dramatic. I was living in the past. I needed to respect boundaries. Sunday dinners became torture. Vanessa dominated every conversation, steering topics away from any mention of my mother or my childhood. She'd make little comments that felt like paper cuts too small to address directly, but they added up. "Your mother had interesting taste in furniture," she'd say with a tight smile. "Your father says you were quite difficult as a teenager. Don't you think it's time you focused on your own life instead of being so dependent on your father?" The worst part was watching my father change. He started canceling our one-on-one lunch dates, insisting Vanessa come along. When I'd call him during the day, she'd answer his phone. "He's busy right now, Nicole. Is this important?" She made me feel like I needed permission to speak to my own father. By Thanksgiving, I barely recognized him. When I arrived at the house invited to come late because there wasn't enough room even though only 6 people sat at a table that held 12, Dad looked at me like I was an obligation instead of his daughter. Vanessa monopolized him completely, her hand possessively on his arm, redirecting his attention whenever he started talking to me. When I mentioned a funny memory from a childhood Thanksgiving, Vanessa actually rolled her eyes. "Still living in the past, Nicole," she said sweetly. Then, turning to my father, "Honey, didn't you say Nicole has trouble letting go?" My father nodded. He actually nodded. I felt something crack inside my chest. Then came Christmas. The final destruction of everything I thought we had. 2 weeks before the holiday, I called Dad to ask what time I should come over. There was a long pause. Actually, Nicole, Vanessa thinks it's best if you don't come this year. The words didn't make sense. What? You make everyone uncomfortable. Vanessa's family will be here, and frankly, your attitude lately has been disrespectful and jealous. It's better if you skip this one. Dad, please, I whispered, tears already starting. It's Christmas. We've never spent Christmas apart. That's the problem, isn't it? His voice was cold, so cold. You're 35 years old, Nicole. You need to get your own life instead of clinging to mine. Vanessa helped me see how unhealthy this has been. I drove over anyway, sobbing the whole way, Christmas presents piled in my passenger seat. I had to try. This was my father. This was our family. He met me at the door and wouldn't let me inside. Through the window behind him, I could see Vanessa's family gathered around our tree. No, not our tree anymore, their tree opening presents and laughing. The lights twinkled on ornaments my mother had collected over decades, the ones Vanessa hadn't thrown away yet. Please, Dad, I begged, standing on the porch where I'd learned to ride a bike, where my mom had taken my prom photos. I don't understand what's happening. This isn't you. No, Nicole, he said, and his eyes were like a stranger's. You're the problem. You've always been jealous of anyone I tried to love after your mother. Vanessa helped me see that. She thinks you need therapy. She's lying to you. She's manipulating enough. He'd never yelled at me like that before. You're being obsessive and inappropriate. Don't come back until you can respect my marriage and stop trying to sabotage my happiness. The door closed. The lock clicked. I stood there in the cold, presents falling from my arms onto the porch, watching through the window as my father walked back to his new family. Vanessa appeared behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and looked directly at me through the glass. She smiled. I sat in my car for an hour, parked across the street from my childhood home, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. My best friend Maya called 3 times before I could answer. He doesn't want me anymore, I sobbed. She's erased me completely. I didn't know then that erasure was just the beginning. I didn't know that in 6 months, my father would be dead, and I wouldn't even be allowed to say goodbye. I didn't know that Vanessa had done this before, that there was another daughter out there who'd lost her father exactly the same way. All I knew, sitting in that car watching Christmas lights blur through my tears, was that I'd lost my father twice. Once to death, when my mother died, and now to something so much worse. 6 months passed, and the silence from my father became deafening. I sent emails that bounced back. I left voicemails that were never returned. I even tried showing up at his office downtown, only to have security turn me away. Mrs. Mitchell has informed us you're not to be allowed access to Mr. Mitchell, the guard said, not unkindly. Mrs. Mitchell, that's what they called her now. I was grieving a living person, and it was destroying me. My work suffered. I stopped sleeping properly. Maya would find me at 2 in the morning scrolling through old photos of Dad and me, torturing myself with memories of when he actually loved me. This isn't healthy, she'd say gently. Vanessa has isolated him completely. This is abuse, Nicole. He's a victim too, but he was also choosing it. That's what killed me. He was choosing her over me every single day. Then, on a random Tuesday afternoon, I ran into Dr. Robert Chen at a coffee shop near my apartment. Dr. Chen had been our family physician for 20 years. He'd held my hand when I got stitches at age 7. He'd been at my mother's funeral. Nicole, he looked genuinely happy to see me, then concerned. How are you holding up? We sat down and I found myself pouring out everything: the isolation, the erasure, Christmas. He listened with growing alarm. I'm worried about your father too, he said quietly. His health has declined so rapidly these past few months. Fatigue, confusion, irregular heartbeat. I've suggested comprehensive testing, but Vanessa keeps pushing back. She insists it's just stress and age, but Nicole, I've known your father for 2 decades. This isn't normal aging. My blood went cold. What do you think it is? I don't know. That's what concerns me. He's only 62. 6 months ago he was playing tennis twice a week. Now he can barely walk to his car without getting winded. And Vanessa has been taking him to different specialists, doctor shopping, never following through with the tests anyone recommends. I felt panic rising in my chest. Can you call him? Insist on tests. Dr. Chen looked helpless. I've tried. She screens all his calls now. She's convinced him I'm being alarmist. I went home and immediately emailed my father, begging him to see Dr. Chen, to get proper testing, telling him I didn't care about our fight, I just wanted him healthy. The email bounced back. She'd blocked my address. 3 weeks later, the letter arrived. Heavy cream paper, law firm letterhead. My hands shook as I opened it. Dear Ms. Mitchell, I am writing to inform you of changes to your father's will and estate planning. Effective immediately, you have been removed as a beneficiary. All assets will pass to his spouse, Vanessa Mitchell, upon his death. Your father has stated this decision reflects your continued harassment and inability to respect his marriage. He does not wish to have further contact with you. I collapsed on my kitchen floor, the letter clutched in my hand, and screamed. Not about the money, I didn't care about the money. But this was it. The final severing. In his eyes, I was no longer his daughter. I had been officially erased. Maya found me there hours later, cried out and hollow. We need to fight this legally, she insisted. Get a lawyer. Contest it. This is elder abuse, financial exploitation. I can't sue my own father, I whispered. What if this makes him hate me even more? Nicole, he's being manipulated, or maybe he just doesn't love me anymore. That's what I believed in the darkest part of my heart. That Vanessa had simply revealed what he'd always felt, that I was a burden, an obligation, someone easier to discard than deal with. I was wrong. So terribly, devastatingly wrong. The call came at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday in June. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Nicole Mitchell? A professional voice, clinical. Yes. This is Mercy General Hospital. Your father, Richard Mitchell, was brought in by ambulance approximately 40 minutes ago. I'm very sorry to inform you that he suffered a massive heart attack. He didn't survive. I'm so sorry for your loss. The world stopped. Just completely stopped. I was in my car in my pajamas, driving 80 miles an hour to the hospital, sobbing so hard I could barely see the road. This couldn't be happening. We hadn't reconciled. He died thinking I was the villain in his story. I never got to tell him I loved him one more time. I burst through the emergency room doors, wild-eyed and hysterical. Richard Mitchell, where is he? I'm his daughter, I need to see him. And there she was. Vanessa, sitting in the waiting area, dressed in black already, not a hair out of place. Her mascara perfect, not a tear in sight. Our eyes met. You're not family anymore, Nicole, she said calmly. Richard wouldn't want you here. You can't keep me from him. I screamed, running toward the hallway. He's my father. Security grabbed me, 2 large men holding me back while I fought and screamed and begged. Vanessa watched with cold satisfaction as they dragged me out of the building and deposited me on the sidewalk. I never saw his body. I never got to say goodbye. The days that followed were a nightmare of exclusion. I learned about the funeral arrangements from Dad's assistant, Jennifer, who called me crying. I'm so sorry, Nicole. She's banned you from the service. I tried to talk to her, but she threatened to fire me if I helped you. Vanessa's lawyer sent me a cease and desist letter warning me not to attend the funeral or contact the family. The funeral, my father's funeral, and I wasn't allowed. So I sat in my car across the street from the church, watching from a distance as they carried his casket inside, watching mourners file in, his colleagues, his friends, people who barely knew him, all allowed to say goodbye except me. The obituary in the paper listed him as survived by his loving wife, Vanessa. That was it. 35 years as his daughter, erased in one sentence. I thought I'd hit rock bottom on that Christmas Eve. I was wrong. This was rock bottom. This was hell. 2 days after the funeral, my phone rang. Dr. Chen. Nicole, I need to talk to you about your father's death. His voice was shaking. Something's not right. The symptoms he had in those final months, the fatigue, confusion, heart arrhythmia, nausea, they're consistent with digitalis toxicity. I don't understand. Digitalis poisoning. It causes heart failure. Nicole, I suggested testing for it 6 weeks ago. Vanessa refused and took him to a different cardiologist. Now he's dead, cremated within 48 hours, no autopsy. My world tilted. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I've been a doctor for 30 years, and this doesn't feel like a natural death. I'm saying those symptoms were classic poisoning signs. I'm saying Vanessa grew foxglove in her garden, that's where digitalis comes from. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Nicole, I think your stepmother murdered your father. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my computer, typing with shaking hands, digitalis poisoning symptoms, foxglove toxicity, heart failure poisoning. Every search result confirmed what Dr. Chen had said. The timeline matched perfectly. At 4 in the morning, I searched for Vanessa's history. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Just anything, any information about who she was before my father. Then I found it. A newspaper article from 8 years ago, buried in a small-town gazette. Local widow inherits estate after husband's sudden death from heart failure. The widow's name Vanessa Hartley. The deceased Martin Reeves, 67, wealthy businessman. Cause of death acute heart failure. No autopsy performed. Cremated immediately. I stared at the screen, my whole body shaking. She'd done this before. My father wasn't her first victim. He was her second, and she'd gotten away with it once already. I became obsessed. For 3 weeks, I barely left my apartment. My coffee table transformed into a murder board. Printouts, sticky notes, timelines mapped in red marker. Maya brought me food and tried to make sure I showered. "You need to be careful," she warned. "If Vanessa finds out you're investigating, let her find out," I said. I was done being careful, done being silent. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Sarah Brennan who specialized in financial crimes. Within a week, she'd uncovered Vanessa's pattern. 3 wealthy widowers targeted on dating sites and at country clubs over 12 years. Martin Reeves was the first, dead within 18 months of marriage, natural causes, no autopsy. The second man, David Chen, broke off the engagement when his children grew suspicious. Smart man. My father was the third, the unlucky one. I tracked down Martin Reeves' daughter, Jennifer, through Facebook. My hands shook as I typed the message. "I think your stepmother killed your father. I think she killed mine too." She called me within an hour, sobbing. "I've known something was wrong for 8 years. Everyone told me I was crazy, that I couldn't accept my father moving on. But she did exactly what you described: isolated him, erased me, controlled everything. He changed his will 3 months before he died. Then suddenly, heart failure. She cremated him before I could even fly home. We cried together on the phone, 2 daughters who'd been gaslit and erased, finally believing each other." Dr. Chen reviewed all of Dad's medical records and contacted a toxicologist. "The symptom progression is textbook digitalis poisoning," the expert confirmed. "Confusion, visual disturbances, cardiac arrhythmia, culminating in heart failure. With the circumstantial evidence, this is highly suspicious." But suspicious wasn't enough. I needed proof. The opportunity came when I remembered I still had a key to the house, the spare from before Vanessa changed the locks on the main doors. The garage entrance key, forgotten in my junk drawer. One Tuesday afternoon, when I knew Vanessa had her weekly spa appointment, I let myself in. My childhood home felt like a crime scene. I moved through rooms that used to be filled with love, now cold and sterile. Vanessa's home office was locked, but I'd learned lock-picking from YouTube videos during my obsession spiral. My hands barely shook as I worked. Inside, her desk was organized and pristine. I photographed everything: bank statements showing Dad's transfers into her personal accounts, documents about the will change. Then I found it, tucked in a drawer beneath insurance papers, a small leather journal. My father's final months documented in Vanessa's neat handwriting. Ours confusion worsening. Good. Doctor wants comprehensive testing. Need to find new doctor. Finally got him to sign POA documents. He was so tired he barely read them. Will change complete. Everything comes to me now. Nicole officially out. R asked about Nicole today, said he missed her. Told him she'd been calling drunk, making threats. He looked so sad. Almost felt bad. Almost. I photographed every page, tears blurring my vision. Then I found the pressed flowers, foxglove blooms, dried and preserved between pages of a book about medicinal plants. Her browser history was still logged in on her computer: digitalis extraction methods, foxglove poisoning symptoms, how long until digitalis leaves system. She'd researched it, planned it, executed it. I left everything exactly as I found it and got out. The police detective, Sarah Morrison, reviewed everything I'd gathered. "This is compelling circumstantial evidence, but without the body, without toxicology, we need more for an arrest warrant. Is there any way to get her on record?" Then I learned about the memorial service. Vanessa was hosting it at the country club 3 months after the funeral, to properly celebrate Richard's life. She'd invited everyone: Dad's business partners, his friends, colleagues. A performance of grief for the community. "That's where we expose her," Jennifer said. "Publicly. In front of everyone. Make her react." Dr. Chen agreed to attend as an invited guest. Jennifer would live stream everything. My attorney prepared press statements. Detective Morrison would wait outside with officers. I had one shot to get justice for my father. The day of the memorial service, I put on a black dress and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked different. Harder. 6 months ago, I was a daughter desperate for her father's love. Now I was a woman who'd uncovered a killer. The country club was filled with people when I walked in, uninvited. Security moved toward me immediately, but I pushed past them into the main room. 80 people turned to stare. Vanessa stood at the podium, mid-speech about her darling husband's legacy. When she saw me, her face drained of color, then flushed red with rage. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "Security, remove her immediately." "I'm here to honor my father," I said, my voice steady and loud, "by telling the truth about how he died." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I walked toward the podium, tablet in hand. "Everyone, please." Vanessa's voice went syrupy sweet. "My stepdaughter has been struggling with mental health issues since Richard's passing. She's been harassing me." "Is that what you told Martin Reeves' daughter too?" The room went silent. Vanessa's perfect mask cracked. I set up my tablet and began presenting medical records showing Dad's digitalis poisoning symptoms. Photos of Vanessa's foxglove garden and pressed flowers. Her journal entries planning the murder. Browser history. Financial records showing her pattern with Martin Reeves' identical timeline, identical method, identical outcome. "My father was poisoned with digitalis extracted from foxglove plants," I said clearly. "The same way Vanessa's first husband, Martin Reeves, was poisoned 8 years ago. She isolated him, turned him against me, changed his will, then slowly murdered him over 6 months." Dr. Chen stood up. "I documented Richard's symptoms. They match digitalis toxicity perfectly. I suggested testing. Vanessa refused and found new doctors. Vanessa tried to run. Actually bolted for the exit. The country club manager blocked her way. "You're insane," she screamed at me, the careful widow act completely shattered. "You have no proof. He's cremated, there's no body, you can't prove anything." "The police are outside," I said calmly. "They have everything I showed today. And they've reopened Martin Reeves' case based on the pattern." Detective Morrison entered with 2 officers. "Vanessa Mitchell, you're under arrest for suspicion of murder in the death of Richard Mitchell and the death of Martin Reeves." As they handcuffed her, Vanessa's face twisted with pure hatred. "He never loved you anyway," she spat at me. "He was weak and pathetic, just like Martin. They deserved what they got." There it was. Her confession, live-streamed to thousands. She was led away screaming about lawyers while the room sat in stunned silence. Then people rushed toward me apologizing, crying, saying they'd noticed red flags but hadn't spoken up. Dad's business partner hugged me. I knew something was wrong. She wouldn't let us visit him those last months. "I'm so sorry we didn't protect him." Dr. Chen wrapped his arms around me as I finally broke down. "Your father would be so proud of you." Jennifer was there too, and we held each other, 2 daughters who'd gotten justice for our fathers. 6 months later, Vanessa is awaiting trial on 2 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecutor found digitalis in Martin Reeves' hair sample from his hairbrush that Jennifer had kept. They exhumed what remained of my father's effects and found traces too. Dad's will is being overturned due to undue influence. I don't want the inheritance. I took only one thing from that house: Mom's photo albums that Vanessa had hidden in the attic. I'm in therapy now, processing everything. Some days are harder than others. I visit Dad's grave and tell him I understand he was a victim too, that Vanessa's manipulation wasn't his fault. I hope somewhere he knows I loved him enough to fight for the truth. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but this wasn't revenge. Revenge would have been letting Vanessa get away with it and living with that rage forever. This was justice. This was love. This was the last thing I could do for my father, make sure his death meant something, that Vanessa couldn't do this to another family. She erased me from his life, but I made sure the truth would never be erased. And that's how I exposed my stepmother's deadly secret. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and if you've ever dealt with a toxic family member. Your stories matter and you're not alone. Thank you for listening to mine.